Well, look, we can dress it up however you want, but drawing against Wolverhampton Wanderers after being 2-0 up, that is the Arsenal that Arteta hoped he'd buried, Scott, isn't it? We've spent all season that this team is going to be different. This team is going to be slightly more mentally strong. But the second the pressure
Mm.
builds, the wheels start wobbling. Have they basically handed the keys of the title race back to Pep Guardiola and said, here, you take it? Or is it just the ebb and flow of a very, very tight title race and fall on us for being so judgmental?
Look, I think it's somewhere in between. I said it last week, didn't I, about how this is what the Premier League is meant to be. This is the most brutal, the richest, the most physical league in the world. And we don't want to be seeing teams running away with it with 10 games to go. This is what, we're looking forward to. But this is not a vintage Manchester City side. This should have been Arsenal's year. And look, I've kind of backed Arsenal a little bit because I backed them right at the start of the season. But I said this is what happens: the ebb and flow of games, and you can draw at Brentford. You can draw against Liverpool. I think the Manchester United defeat was a blow, but then they bounced back really well against Leeds. But this one last night, I think is massive. I really do. I think it's a massive blow to their confidence, to the belief. I've said for a few weeks now, the only way I feel that Arsenal won't win it is through their fans. Well, the fans are going to get even more nervous now. And yeah, Manchester City just feel like, don't they, with the signings of Semenyo and in particular Mark Guehi, that they're ready to go. So the fact that it's still in Arsenal's hands, but actually it's also in Manchester City's hands, I think Arsenal have definitely handed it to City. But there'll be more twists and turns, Sam. There'll be more twists and turns.
In what other league in the world are the top team 2-0 up against the bottom team who couldn't win for toffee, score for toffee, or actually do anything at all before about 2 weeks ago and end up drawing 2-2? It just doesn't happen anywhere else, does it, Crook?
No, it doesn't, and it underlines the competitive nature of the Premier League. But listen, as much as we should applaud Rob Edwards and his players for the way they fought back, let's make no mistake about it. They weren't in the game for half an hour, and Arsenal went into cruise mode, went into stroll mode, whatever way you want to label it, and they handed the initiative for Wolves to get back into the game. If you're champions elect, you go 1-0 up against one of the worst teams the Premier League's ever seen, still at the moment, the worst team the Premier League has ever seen in terms of points. If you go 1-0 up after 4 minutes, you have to kill the game. And this is my problem with Mikel Arteta. He's got his team playing with a handbrake on because they go 1-0 up and their natural reaction is not to go hunting the second, the third, the fourth goal to put the game to bed, as I think Manchester City would in similar circumstances. Their natural reaction is just to keep the ball, pass it around lethargically. And then when Wolves did go up through the gears, Arsenal had no answer. Their fans, I can tell you, they're feeling the heat this morning. They're blaming the media for this narrative that Arsenal are bottling the title, but the facts don't lie.
Well, it doesn't help that you're reveling in it. For a team that have prided themselves, Scott, on brilliant defensive displays, I was absolutely baffled by the fact that they were so disorganised for that final goal. I mean, David Raya and Gabriel getting in a right old tangle. He's got to come out and take charge of that. If he's going to come out and go for it, he's got to get it. He's got to make sure he takes everything out. And I don't know if there was a bit of miscommunication. I mean, look, come on. It was pretty unlucky that the shot comes off Calafiori, comes off the post, and then comes off Calafiori again and then goes in. I mean, crikey. I mean, it wasn't exactly the cleanest goal you'll ever see. But defensively, it did look a right mess. And that's just not Arsenal, Scott.
No, and they're the type of goals and the type of moments that the Arsenal fans are looking at, and then the glass half empty side of them will say, it's not our season again, because that was a freakish goal. You're absolutely right to mention what happened with Calafiori playing a 1-2 off the post and it going in. But the actual, it came because absolutely it was a miscommunication. And if the keeper's going to come, he has got to scream his head off. So the centre back is almost scared and he moves out the way. And if Gabriel doesn't move out the way, then David Raya has got to let him head the ball out. I mean, there was no Wolves player within 2 or 3 yards of them. So if he had have screamed, if he had have moved out the way, it's a simple catch. He dives on the floor. He kills 30 seconds. The game is absolutely over. And yet, look what happened. And now everybody is piling on, including Crookie, is piling on Arsenal. And the Arsenal fans are thinking, see, this is what we do. This is what we crumble. But I've gone through the remaining 12 games. And then I realised, I actually thought, Arsenal will still win the title. And then I thought, what happened last night? I'd have predicted a comfortable win for them against Wolves.
Yeah.
You can't
Because
predict.
their fixtures are quite kind, aren't they? I think they've only got 2 of the top 6 left to play, and that's Chelsea and Manchester City. And the Chelsea game is just around the corner. And of course, we're going to talk about the North London Derby in just a moment. Crook and I are going on Sunday, and we cannot wait, by the way, for this, because it is like, it's an amazing narrative. We'll get to it in just a second. And then, of course, they have that big game against Manchester City. But both things are true. If Manchester City win all of their games between now and the end of the season, they win the title. If Arsenal win all of their games between now and the end of the season, they win the title. So, like, you know, we're still in a situation where the race is in the balance, which is great for the Premier League and great for the neutral. Not great if you are an Arsenal supporter, especially if you're an Arsenal supporter who knows Alex Crook. It is a little bit concerning, though, isn't it? That their most creative moment probably came from the centre-back passing to the left-back for the second goal. And that is one of the issues. I know you said earlier on that all they do is just, you know, they don't go for the jugular, they don't pass the ball around just lethargically and trying to wait the game out. I'm not sure that's true. I wonder whether or not actually they're lacking a little bit of creativity.
Maybe, and we spoke about him on the podcast we did on Monday. It's pretty damning of Eberechi Eze, big money summer signing. He's got a hat-trick in a North London derby, but when they don't have a number 10 because Ødegaard is injured, Havertz is injured again, they would rather play Bukayo Saka in that position than out wide, than put Eze on from the start. So I'm not sure where his Arsenal career is really going. But just on what Scott said there about, you know, the goalkeeper should have just collapsed on top of the ball, he'd have wasted time. It's ironic they didn't do that because they were quite good at wasting time. And I thought it was embarrassing that Declan Rice, who obviously set up the goal after 4 minutes, he took 55 seconds to take a corner at 2-1. You've got players rolling around on the floor to try and waste time as well. This is the champions in waiting against a terrible Wolves team. Time wasting. How humiliating is that? And obviously it comes back to bite them because they concede the goal late in the game.
Average time to take a corner in the Premier League, Scott, do we know?
No idea. Go on. You'll tell us.
36.9 seconds. So he wasted an extra 20 seconds. Is that the worst transgression?
Not even
really.
that.
I just thought optically it looked pretty poor. It smacked of that anxiety, that nervousness that is coming from the terraces onto the pitch.
Sounds like you're adopting another narrative, to be honest with you, to twist the knife into Arsenal.
I don't agree with Crookie on that particular example. I think when you're right at the very end, it's game management. It doesn't matter who you're playing. But I do agree with him in terms of, you know, just having a little bit more of a free, open style. You know, you asked me a question a couple of weeks ago, is this the right sort of tactics for Mikel Arteta? And I looked at the table and there were 9 points clear, albeit with City having a game in hand. But at the same time, the season is a long season. And in moments like this is where you have to kill the game off. I mean, they weren't just 1-0 up, they were 2-0 up against, as Crookie says, one of the worst sides in the history of the Premier League. You know, these are the moments that creep into your mind where suddenly, as Sir Alex Ferguson famously said, squeaky bum time, can you handle the pressure? We know Pep's been there. We know the majority of the City players have been there, but not all. It's not the same City side. But Arsenal have repeatedly in the last 3 years got close and fallen away. And, you know, I hope for their sake they don't do it, but also, I love Pep and everyone will jump on him if they don't win it again, saying it's about time he goes. So in this sense, with Chelsea not around, I can't lose.
Do you know what? It's fascinating, isn't it? Because, like you said, there's so much noise around it. But we have been saying this is a team that have been playing low-risk football over the course of the season, and they have been trying to plot their way through the season without really overextending themselves and just getting the job done, knowing that it's a long season. Now, that's absolutely fine if it works out. But if it doesn't work out, you know that approach is going to be criticised. And quite rightly so, right? Because if it doesn't work, then you did get it wrong. So I think we have to wait till the end of the season before we decide whether or not this is the right approach or the wrong approach. Because until the result is in, you can't tell.
You say plot, I say plod. There's a subtle difference between the two. If they win it, Arsenal fans will say the means were worth the end. If they don't, then I think they're going to have some serious soul searching to do, because Scott's right. This is not a great Manchester City side, and this should have been the year not only Arsenal won the league, I think they should have won it quite comfortably, and it doesn't look as if that is going to be the outcome now. And there's another graphic they put up on television last night: points won by Arsenal and Manchester City in the final 12 games of the last few seasons. Pep absolutely smashes Mikel Arteta in that regard. So history tells us that Manchester City come to the boil at this stage of the season, and Arsenal tend to wilt, whoever they're playing. We'll go back to a couple of years ago when they lost at home to Aston Villa, which basically cost them the title. There was another season around Christmas time when they managed to drop points against West Ham and Fulham.
What about the game against
games.
Southampton? Do you remember that game when
The
Karen
3-3
Ramsdale
game.
kicked the ball
Yeah.
at Charlie Alcaraz?
Yeah, so I don't think you can take any of their fixtures for granted.
A quick word on Wolverhampton Wanderers, Scott. I mean, obviously they're not going to survive, but great moment for 19-year-old Tomidozi scoring on his debut. I mean, him and Mane. I mean, what worries me about this is that I was just about to say they'll be great in the Championship next season, but knowing Wolverhampton Wanderers, they'll probably sell them in the summer.
Yeah, I think Mane could go. I think it'd be quite early for a Dozy. I mean, what a moment for him and his family. And it was a really good technique, really good strike. He still had to stay over the ball. So yeah, there's a talent there for sure. And look, Rob Edwards has got a lot of stick, hasn't he? And rightly so, in my opinion, for saying what he said at Middlesbrough at the start of the season, then jumping ship. You know, there's every chance that those two teams could swap, but I think he's done pretty well. You know, he was saying 3 defeats in 11. I was there for the Chelsea game where it was 2 horrendous mistakes by the defenders that the manager can't do anything about. I think he's doing well. And if they give him a chance next season, they will have a chance of going straight back up.
Okay, it's back-to-back games without a win for Arsenal. Next up, it's a trip across North London. Yes, the North London derby, Sunday, 4:30. Crook and I will be there for Game Day Live. 3 weeks ago, this was a guaranteed Arsenal win. Not so sure now, given the form and Spurs' new manager, Crookmeister. What about the Apple boy? Is he going to settle in and take a big bite out of Arsenal's title hunt?
Listen, he's got history, hasn't he, of coming into clubs towards the end of a season, getting an uplift, getting some positive results. That's obviously why Tottenham are attracted to him. I thought it was really interesting that the names in the frame for this interim job weren't Premier League experience. You had Marco Rosa, obviously at Borussia Dortmund and Leipzig. You had Edin Terzic as well, the former Dortmund manager, and obviously they ended up going with Igor Tudor. So I'd like to know.
I suppose Edin Terzic probably has got Premier League experience on the basis that he was the assistant manager at West Ham for one.
But the fact they weren't going for a former Premier League manager, I think is really interesting. Maybe it suggests there's not actually that bigger pool to choose from when it comes to managers who have taken charge in the Premier League. Southampton hired Ivan Juric for the same reason, and that turned out to be an absolute disaster. I'm not saying Tudor is going to be Juric 2.0, but I do think it's a risky appointment. I do think it's a risky appointment. I think I'd have been more confident for Spurs if they'd have got Harry Redknapp out of retirement. I really do, and that may sound really simplistic, but I think he would have come in, given the dressing room a lift. His man management skills, I think, would have been able to nurse them out of this situation. I don't know if Igor Tudor can do that in the Premier League.
Okay.
Well,
sure the first thing is that you did say actually on Monday's podcast, this has got Ivan Juric vibes about it. So when you say, I'm not saying it's the same thing, you basically have already done that. And the Igor Tudor thing, is that because, and this is not me being disrespectful, I'm just asking the question, is that because you don't know who he is? So your frame of reference is not there? Because ultimately he has had an impact at big clubs on short-term basis before. Yeah. So his CV suggests that actually this is the perfect role for him. He might not be a long-term manager.
It's a different beast, though, Sam. The Premier League is a different beast. And Tottenham are a strange football club. And again, this is going to sound like I'm having a dig at the supporters. I'm not. But I do think their fans have unrealistic expectations when you look at the history in modern times of Tottenham. So this guy is going to have to hit the ground running. He's going to have to win games, and he's going to have to play a certain brand of football.
Not easy to do when you've got 15 players unavailable and only really 11 senior pros that can play this week. Now, I heard this thing this week. Apparently, Javi Simons is being lauded by the Spurs fans for turning down a 5-day holiday so that he could work to get even better.
You've
They
been
should
reading my
all be
notebook.
turning down a 5-day holiday to get better. Everybody, no one should be going on holiday.
They
Everybody
shouldn't
should
be on
be
holiday in the first place.
exactly.
Who loses a
Everybody should
game,
be
gets the
buckling
manager
down.
fired, and gets 5 days off? I
It's
know for a fact a
unreal.
couple of the players have jetted out to Dubai to get a bit of winter sun. It's unbelievable.
Crikey. I
Okay.
mean, because Scott's going to tell us now that everyone deserves a holiday and that football as well. You know, it's not fair that they shouldn't get one mid-season. Crookie has one. But at
I
the end of
don't
the
actually.
day, what message does it send to the Tottenham fans? Oh, by the way, we've got the manager sacked, and now we're going off to Dubai for a
No,
jolly.
that's not what I'm going to say. What I'm going to say is, I think if Thomas Frank was in charge, I think sometimes just getting away from all the noise and trying to reset mentally, I think is not a bad thing to do. I know.
Together in a camp, yeah.
Well, I know. Yeah, together, I think whether it's playing football, whether it's not, you play a little bit of football, but just to get away from it. If you've got Thomas Frank as your manager, now you've got a new manager in. And the style that he plays is very front foot, and Spurs fans should like it. I mean, I am with Crookie that I said I felt that the one biggest thing that the Spurs hierarchy need to do is to turn the fans back on their side with the poor home form. And I think it's as ridiculous as it sounds, an appointment of a Harry Redknapp or Glenn Hoddle just immediately does that. So there's no new manager bounce with Igor Tudor, or no new manager good feel factor with Igor Tudor, the appointment of him. But what he does do, and he showed good football at Verona and Marseille. He did well at Juve and Lazio as well. He wants to be front foot, but it's physically demanding. So if you got 5 days off doing nothing, sitting by the pool, when actually you should be running and getting fitter, if he believes that you're not fit enough, you're getting paid a lot of money to be a professional footballer. I don't care whether it's Premier League or League Two. When you're down there, you need to do whatever is right. Sometimes a difficult decision might just be a get away from it mentally. But actually, in this particular instance, with a new manager, he needs as many days as possible and as much time on the grass.
And it sends a message to the supporters that we've messed up. We really care. We are going to sort this out. You know, not we're going to go on holiday and come back and we'll sort it out when we get back kind of vibe, which is not what the supporters want to hear. They're already annoyed anyway. The idea of the front-footed football sounds brilliant. You have to be fit to play in it. Sounds great. Not great if you've only got 4 players, which Spurs seem to only ever have because everyone gets injured anyway. So the idea of playing even more intense football, I'm not entirely sure this is a great recipe for success, Crook.
Let's see though. Let's see how quickly some of those injured players get fit now that Thomas Frank isn't the manager anymore. Not that I'm a cynic.
So you are the world's biggest cynic. Okay, so this is a must-win for Arsenal now, Scott, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. And you're sort of thinking, is it a good game for Arsenal? Is it a bad game? Is it a good game for Spurs? Is it a bad game? We know what happened with Mickey Carrick with his first game and how well they did against Manchester City. But, both these teams can't win. Look, it's a massive game for both. Let's look, we're the highlight, obviously, especially with what happened with Wolves, is Arsenal, and they've got to go to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and win. Tottenham have to win. This is a massive game for them. If they lose and other teams win around them, they are right in the doo-doo. So this is just a game I'm going to buy as much popcorn as I can, sit on the sofa and just enjoy.
I'm going to have some of those at Spurs. They do this like chicken and waffle fries. It's really quite tasty. I'm going to just sit there with a big bowl of that and just watch and, just enjoy. It's going to be great. Me and Crook are going to have a great time. Although Crook has vowed to wear a baseball cap because he's scared of the Tottenham fans. He might be scared of the Arsenal fans now as well.